I've got some bad news for you. There's a very good chance that you've been getting your weight shift completely wrong through the golf swing, and we've got Joe here who's going to help us explain that. So what should we do? Shall I?
I think you hit one first.
I'll hit a shot.
Yeah,
okay, we'll have a look.
Yeah.
So I've got 7 iron. And we'll obviously be throwing this data up on the screen so you can see, and then we're going to get Joe to kind of analyse it. Felt pretty good. So what are you looking at
So
in terms of?
First thing I'm looking at is.
Be kind. What's good?
It's very pretty. Yeah. The first thing I look at is sort of starting pressures. As you can see, what I like to see is a little bit of lead side pressure or pressure through the left foot initially.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
The biggest thing I tend to see with people is they're very static.
Okay.
They are under the notion of less movement gives them more consistency.
Yes.
Okay.
The less I move, the easier it's going to be.
100%. Yeah. It's great if you again want to hit that ball a short distance.
Works for putting.
Works great for putting. yeah. Occasionally with a chipper. But what we want to see is we want to see a build-up of force. Okay, we want to get some energy into the golf club. Now, what I tend to see with the amateur player is as they move the golf club away from their body, there is a zero movement pattern early doors.
So there's no weight shift at all.
Nothing
no
at all.
shift.
They're 50-50 at address and they're still 50-50 at lead arm parallel mid backswing.
Okay.
Then they have that big movement to the right.
Okay.
Which becomes then an issue.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the viewers out here can comment below, but if ever you've been told top of your backswing you should have more weight on your back leg, that's possibly why they make that movement.
Yeah, like you said, when we were growing up, it was always top of backswing as a static position.
Yeah.
And you'd rehearse it in a mirror.
Yeah.
Looks really pretty, great positions, but we're not stopped at the top of the backswing.
No. So basically, that's wrong. If you're thinking that you need to 80% of your weight or weight in your back leg at the top, try and take that in your mind and just throw it in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely. My sort of goal is 55% lead side at the top.
Okay, there you go.
Now, that is obviously a whole sequencing issue for most people. Most people have the ability to move it, but everything moves very late.
Okay.
So like I said, they move into the trail side late. Now we've got an issue.
Yeah.
What I tend to see in the best players is they move into the trail side early, boom, when the club is furthest away from target.
Yeah.
That's when I like to see pressure peaking on trail side.
Okay.
Okay.
So that club's going to be like here?
When that club is furthest away from my target, that's when I'm peaked out on the trail side.
So if you look at that position there, what Joe's saying is in the good players, that is when the most amount of pressure is on the back leg.
We're shifting pressure as opposed to mass.
Yeah.
And also, I personally feel sway gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every golfer sways. They might not think they sway, but they sway.
It just turns into rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the values of the sway.
Yeah.
You can obviously have a poor amount of sway. You can have a good amount of sway. If we're moving 7 inches off the golf ball, well, we've got a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
But the best players in the world move between 1 and 1.5 inches off the golf ball. That 1 and 1.5 inch is moving pressure.
Okay. So we've got to this point. Most of my pressure is under that trail side.
Yep.
What happens now?
Now, as that club starts to tip back over the top of your head, that's when we want to subtly fall back onto that lead side. Okay. Exactly like if I was throwing a stone. I would go into my trail side early and fall back and nestle into that lead side. That's not an aggressive fall. It's a very subtle movement as that club's just tipping over the top. Boom.
So why don't I try and hit a shot doing what is pretty common in terms of what you see.
Yeah.
Because I think the key thing here is what you measure.
Yep.
Is very much what I see.
Yeah.
You know, I see these things, but I'm just not able to measure it like you are here. So I'm going to try and go pretty much 50-50.
Static takeaway.
Static takeaway, shift late. Oh, that felt difficult.
Yeah.
That felt really difficult. So I mean, distance was way down.
Initial movement off the ball here, so you can see you haven't moved at all there, Chris.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I can do the bad ones.
Yeah. Then the pressure's always going to move right late.
Yeah.
So we can see at the top of the backswing, we have 80% of your pressure still nestled under that right side.
Yeah. Okay. And for many golfers, that's what they'd be searching for.
100%.
They'd be trying to do that.
Yeah. It just makes it really, really difficult to get the club bottoming out after the golf ball.
Yeah, most could struggle with that.
Yeah, dynamic loft gets very high. Lack of power.
Yeah.
there's no downsides of shifting early.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that when you get this pressure shifting correctly, as in early, recentering and through, it just almost creates the rhythm as well. It makes the swing feel
100%.
You know, rather than this kind of nothing, lots, and then
correct.
jerky. So when you see this pattern, what have you got any kind of go-to drills or feelings or ideas that you would use?
I wouldn't overcomplicate this. I would initially just get a golf ball down on the deck. I'd bring the lead foot into the trail foot, and as I take that golf club away, all I'm looking to do is sort of fall back onto that lead side. Okay, sort of falling back into normal stance width.
Okay.
So as I fall, you can see here the pressure's now recentered back onto that lead side. It's a bit of a rub your belly, pat your head kind of movement. Okay.
So if you do that again and stop in that transition as you get to there, so where do you feel the weight now? 50-50 or more?
I would probably say slightly more 60-40 lead side, left side dominant.
Yeah. So what I just did was 80% right at the top. And what you're saying is at the top it's going to be slightly more. Yeah. And that's going to be a very different feeling.
100%. It will feel like you're way more in front of the golf ball.
Yeah. But that's initially, as you say, going to take low point and shift it forwards.
Look, if we're saying ground contact's an issue for somebody, and obviously low point being here, if I'm moving away from that point late in the backswing, that's going to make it very tricky. If I'm falling onto that point, happy days. I can much improve my ground contact.
Would it be able to measure me if I stood on here but kept my feet obviously on different platforms? But
yeah, absolutely.
So if I went and did this with that measure?
Yeah, you go all the way into that lead trail side if you want. Go a little bit narrower, Chris. Perfect.
Okay, there we go. So that's really narrow.
Yep.
So I'm now going to go and try and shift to the lead side as early as I can. Oh, I'll tell you what, that felt so much more punchier at impact.
So you move off. So if we hold that there, we can see obviously 100% because the left foot's in the air at this point, but we can see clubs sort of furthest away from target.
Yeah.
Happy days. We're peaked out on trail. And by the time we get to the top, better. We could have fell a little earlier.
Wow. Earlier still.
Tad.
So my weight is not, my pressure shift isn't perfect, but it's possibly better than some amateurs.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And to me, that felt extreme.
100%.
So from where they're starting from, it's going to feel like...
Yeah, it's going to feel completely out of sync, this.
Okay.
So if you were to struggle with that, all I would do would get like half a tennis ball.
Yeah.
Place it under the left ball of foot where I'm about to stand onto, and create more of an aggressive little pop into that. So you're just pressuring through that left foot a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I like the direction that's going,
but
we could just press into that lead side with a bit more aggression.
So if I'm practicing this, and I'd love everyone to practice this, if I'm at home, theoretically I could take away the golf club.
100%.
But it would be okay for me to practice this extreme, as in to the point where it's like,
go crazy.
Really feel like, because I'm not really trying to create the perfect move, I'm just trying to train a feel and
we know that end of the spectrum. We need to know that end of the spectrum to then fall somewhere into the middle part. Yeah. So go crazy.
Okay. And would you find that when you get golfers to do this better, there's a fraction, the levels lower a little bit?
In terms of?
As in head height might drop a
100%. Yeah. Because in effect, to get speed out to the golf club, there's a height change.
Yeah.
If you're asking me to jump, I'm going to go down before I go up. So absolutely. There's a decent chance you're going to go down. That's not a bad thing.
No.
As long as we get back out the floor.
I mean, what's interesting there is that it feels incredibly different, and obviously I'm only doing it for the first time, and everyone's going to experience this when they're practicing it. It does feel a little bit difficult to coordinate.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is normal, I guess.
Okay, so there you go.
We're getting closer.
There we go. So now we can see we're way more loaded into this left side. 60% of your pressure's on the lead foot, but that to you felt extreme.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine there's a golfer watching this who wouldn't start to flush it.
The ball will go further.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll create better ground contact. Your consistency will go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to summarise then, for what we're looking for.
Yep.
Taking a setup.
Yep.
Amateurs are going to be more 50-50.
Yep.
Better players are more
55.
Yep. And then when we get to around about here, poorer players are still 50-50.
Correct.
Better players are 80.
80.
And at the top of the backswing, poorer players are
80.
Good players are
55 lead.
55 lead. And then as you come down, So good players are going to be 80 here?
Yeah, and then extending.
And poorer players are just struggling to get to that
100%,
leg.
yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's a really important topic. I think weight shift has been missold for so many years. I know when I was growing up, it was that kind of like,
same for me, exactly the same.
leg.
Yeah.
But the more we're able to, use technology like we have here, tap into people like Joe, we can start to dive into what is actually happening. And if you start to do what the best players do, you'll start to hit it like the best players do.